Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Monday, and we are back again with another PWCC weekly review / fanatics. As we do every week, I'll go through the top 100 soccer items that were auctioned off this week. As always, if you enjoy these weekly reviews, do make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel, all that good stuff. But as we do, let's go ahead and hop on over there now. So on over to the site. This week we started at $180, which is a pretty high benchmark compared to the last few weeks. But we have a lot of gold prisms in here. As you can see, we're getting started with 2 of them. So we'll talk through it. We start with the 1970 Panini Campione dello Sport Pele and a PSA 8. Goes for $180. Next to it, we have the first of, again, many Prizm Golds from 2018 in particular. We start with a Gary Cahill and a Tommy Juric. Not sure entirely on that player, but I think that these, we'll talk about it more as we go through, but the grading premium, it almost seems like there might not be really much of any on some of these guys. A PSA 10 going for $180 assumes that a raw would go for like, $60, $80 probably. And to me, that sounds pretty low for even somewhat random 2018 World Cup players. I think Prizm Golds, there's only 10 of them per World Cup. At most, there's 30 per player. I just think that that's probably too light, but when you have a lot of them auctioning, some are going to go light. We'll talk through more as we go. We have an Erling Haaland Select Signatures here out of 49 that goes for $186. We then have a Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 10 checkerboard for $186. We'll see a Messi as well here in a moment, along with a Alexander Mitrovic out of 10 PSA 10 that goes for $186 here, again from the Gold World Cup Prizm. A Pepe PSA 9 goes for $186 here. I did look at this just because I was curious. We might get comps on it, and we did. I won't comp many of these because really the comps are all of them. You can comp them to each other. That's sort of the fun part. But for some historic perspective, an out of 10 Gold World Cup Prizm last went for 107 raw. So, 186 for a PSA 9 seems like a decent price. Definitely got a premium over a raw. And then a jersey number out of 10 gold from 2018 in 2018 went for $67. So, granted it's jersey number, so does that get a premium? Probably not much for Pepe, I would say. But with that considered, it's only up 3x since release date for, what in my opinion is one of, if not the most important parallels, probably in, the modern game in general. Gold Prizms out of 10 are huge, and in particular in soccer, 2014 World Cup Prizm. There's also only World Cup Prizms, really. There is EPL stuff, but for the most part, the World Cup releases are the big one. Next to that, in Jude Bellingham out of 10, Gold Mojo, PSA 10 for $186. You have a Kaboom De Bruyne, who recently left Man City. I don't think he retired necessarily. Did have an Instagram post sort of commemorating it all, and that BGS 9 Kaboom goes for $198, which didn't strike me as a crazy price for a, somewhat early Kaboom. Karim Benzema Ball Patch Auto goes for $198, PSA 10 grade. A Genesis Mosaic here for Kylian Mbappe goes for $204, along with a Laser 2018 Prizm. Match Attacks Christian Pulisic. This one's never really been on my radar, but seemingly gets a good number for a Match Attacks card. PSA 10 Pop 107 for $210. Next to it, another gold Prizm here goes for $210 as well. And the Bobby Charlton SGC2, this struck me as a really high price. I don't think it has anything special about it. I think it was just a high price. When we go back and look, I guess compared to other 2s, it's not crazy. There's a 2 miscut here for $100. There's a, where are we looking? 2 here for $144 back in 2023, $138 in 2023. And $132 in 2022. So, definitely up. The lowest I guess we can find is $123 for a 2. And I guess, pre-boom, they were going for like $40 to $60. So definitely up from there. I guess it probably deserves to be up a little bit. When pre-boom it was $40 to $60, and then during the boom it's hitting like $130. It's not a huge, mark up. So 210, comparative to other sales, I only looked up 2s. But compared to other sales, I do think this was pretty strong for what is the more common version. Pulisic sticker rookie for $216. Again, that strikes me as high, but Pulisic stuff generally is doing well. I just think the PSA 10 premium on this type of stuff is kind of crazy when, me personally, I own some, I'm selling some, but like the select colors, I much prefer that than, a PSA 10 rookie that is a sticker or a Match Attacks. I just think also generally Fanatics Collect is getting a lot of good prices on a lot of stuff in general, which I think probably just says cards are up at the moment. It's always felt like we're sort of creeping up the last year and a half, but now it's sort of really setting in, I feel like. This Sarosi in a 3 goes for $222. Again, another high price. I bought a 4 on eBay, and granted, eBay you're usually going to get lower prices, but I bought a 4 for like $80. I sold it for $200. I thought that was a good flip. Apparently, it's even higher than that now. A 3's going for $222. Parasic Gold here, PSA 10 for $222. I thought this was a great deal, at least compared to the other gold prisms. Obviously, Croatia had that run in 2018, so if you're a Croatian collector, if you're into that sort of stuff, a PSA 10 gold from that year for just a smidge over $200 doesn't sound bad at all. This is labeled as 1927, an uncataloged Italian Miazza sort of in-action shot here. Goes for $222. It's authentic and looks pretty roughed up, but doesn't strike me as a crazy price, assuming all of that's on the up and up. 2020 Sapphire Yellow Jude out of 99 and a 9 goes for $222. I thought that was low, so I looked it up, and it actually is. This is like the lowest price. I guess if we go by price and then we go by lowest, this is the lowest out of any of them that you can see here. Some are the short print, which it says short print. I guess it's like the variation, basically. They're both numbered out of 99, so one isn't shorter print than the other, but you get the idea. All-time high was $500 to $600 back in 2022, 2023, so definitely down a good bit there. And it sort of makes sense. I mean, Jude got his move. He really had his best year, or at least one of his best years when he got there. And now Mbappe sort of stealing the spotlight to some extent. Obviously, you have Vinny there, who's always going to be a factor as well, and I think he's just sort of settling in behind those guys, which makes sense. I mean, you know, the hobby really loves attackers. I think that the focus on Jude was deserved, but I also think it was something that probably isn't all that sustainable in the sense that, you know, midfielders in the hobby just don't get a ton of love. Some of them do, you know, eventually over time as they do more and more things, but in this sort of scenario, I can see why maybe it's fallen a bit. Messi checkerboard, this goes for $228. I mentioned the Ronaldo earlier for like $186, so a little bit of a premium on the Messi there. Pulisic rookie in a 10 again. Well, you know, a good example. I take this over, you know, the sticker or the match attacks for sure. That goes for $234 from the Donruss 2016 set. Gold Beam Team, Lionel Messi. $240 on that BGS 9. You know, personally, I never really like the cards that come from like baseball or basketball in the 90s and then get brought back into modern day, but Beam Team for some reason is one that I can almost forgive, and so for that reason, I don't think that this is a, you know, a terrible buy. I know people sort of hate the PSG kits. I'm not a huge PSG kit fan myself, but, you know, if the card's good enough, I could overlook it, I guess. Kaboom Harry Kane for $240 and a PSA 9 from 2019. A Prizm. Interesting row here with a Jude Inception starting us off at $240. We have a 1986 Maradona and a PSA 5 for $252. That is a high sale. I looked up some others, and I mean, from what I could find, you know, some sales recently, $228, $250. I think the low I could find back here was, yeah, $150 on Golden. There might have even been a lower sale at some point in time, but it's going to be hard to find. If we go back during the boom, as you can see, 2021, one was going for $810. Another one was going for $345 in 2021, so kind of all over the place, but getting closer to that 2021 pricing, end of 2021 into 2022, which for a sticker like that, it's pretty cool. I mean, a PSA 5 is a decent grade, but it's not certainly towards the high end. This is, in one regard, 2010 Panini WCCF. This is a Neymar PSA 10, which these I thought were going to be hard to find in PSA 10. Apparently there's 9 of them, so I guess they're not that incredibly hard. I looked at the back and I was just curious, like, I mean, I'm guessing PSA just gives more leniency on these types of cards. I know it's, you know, not perfect, but you can clearly see like whitening along like all of the edges. And I know the WCCF cards typically have whitening, so maybe they're just a little looser on the grading here, but, you know, I feel like if that... I submit modern cards from like 2016 that have like the smallest smidge of whitening you could ever see, and they get a 9 for that reason. So to think that this gets a 10, I just don't get it. But nonetheless, this was graded a while ago, so maybe grading standards were different then. I tend to believe they were. Beyond that, 2018, gold Prizm row here. Take your pick of the bunch. I do think the Watchers kind of tell a story here. You got 21 on the Icardi, you got 34 on the Kagawa, and you got 47 on the David Silva. I think the David Silva was the pick of the bunch. I think that was the deal of the bunch. And yeah, cool to see them all go. I mean, there's going to be even more. Like I said, it is a gold Prizm week. Just like that, 2 more above it. Thiago Silva in a 9 and a Sergio Romero in a 10. I think the Thiago Silva got a pretty good price considering it's a 9, but again, I don't think a lot of people care about the grading premium here. I mean, it is a pop 1 of 1, then higher, so it is what it is. Blue Lamine Yamal from 2023 Select. I don't know what that's numbered to, but it's unnumbered, and if you're into that sort of stuff, you can do the maths and do the pack odds and figure that out. Beyond that, 2024 Topps Lineage Argentina Dreamworthy Messi Maradona goes for $252. You have this SGC 8 Thierry Henry rookie from 97, Los Mejores Equipos de Europa, and this goes for $252. Seems like a low price, at least compared to where those have been, but they have fallen a good bit, so that sort of is in line with that, at least to me. Seems like a decent buy if you're into that sort of stuff. $250 for a super high grade secondary rookie for Thierry Henry. I would say the foot is pretty clearly the rookie. But this is the more common version of the secondary rookie. We got a Giroud out of 10, Gold Prizm, PSA 8, Papa 1 of 1, 2 higher. Obviously the 8 here seemingly would take it back a step, but of course France is the World Cup winner for 2018, and Giroud is a pretty notable player on said team, so I think $264. If you're trying to build out that team, build out that set, whatever you're doing, I think that's a decent price. Above it, Messi patch here for $276. You have a Maradona here in a PSA 9 from 82 from France, goes for $276, and a Raheem Sterling PSA 10 gold, that goes for $276 as well. Again here, I mean, Raheem Sterling, you know, a little bit of a name, I guess, but I take the Giroud over it, even though it's a couple grades lower. Above it, 92, 93 Zidane, rookie, again, just egregious. I know that they always, or at least their excuses, that they just sort of keep whatever PWCC had in there as the labeling, but this is just egregious. Goes for $288. I looked at comps, and these are up actually a good bit. I mean, $210 was the last Fanatics bin sale, so it's up $70-$80 over that just a month ago. Before that, $204, $219, $192. I think there's a really low eBay sale here. I lied. I refined it to PSA 5. Before, though, there's some eBay sales on these that are super low. I think there was like a PSA 8 that went around this price, maybe like $100 more at one point. But yeah, these are doing pretty good. I'd like to believe it, or I'd like to believe that it's not because it says rookie. I don't think it is, but you never know. Some people are new and they might get confused. It does have a lot of watchers, nearly 60. Kylian Mbappe Select Gold PSA 9 for $300. 60 watchers on that is so much, man. That's so much. I mean, like, that might be... I kind of got shook by that. That might be the most we've seen in this entire page, and I think it is. The Messi checkerboard's got 55. I mean, other than that, though, that's really high. I just wanted to throw that out there. That was kind of striking to me. Select Gold, Kylian Mbappe PSA 9 goes for $300. A Cristiano Ronaldo Gold Chrome out of 50 PSA 10 goes for $312. I'll always say it. I mean, I like the idea of collecting... If you like the idea of collecting first-year Gold Chrome, I think collecting the run of Gold Chrome for likes of, you know, Ronaldo or Messi is a great way to go about it, or just any player you like. I mean, if you assume the grading premiums and whatnot, that means this raw would maybe be like, or in a PSA 9 would maybe be like $100. I mean, if people are willing to spend $5 to $10 grand on a 2017, why wouldn't you be willing to spend $100 or a few hundred on a 2024? I know it's Euro, it's not Champions League, so maybe that's it. But even the Champions League stuff doesn't go that crazy. So beyond that, this went crazy. I don't know what this was about. PSA 9 Mohamed Salah. These go for $50 all day. I think I looked it up, and I did. Yeah, 48, 51, 55, 55, 99 on a best offer. You know, we got the homie here for 91, 99, 45. Just, yeah, doesn't make any sense. I have no clue why that did what it did, but nonetheless, 2018 Cristiano Ronaldo could be a sign of, even if you were shilling something, I don't think it's shilling to some extent, because like even if you're shilling, why would you shill it this high? It doesn't make any sense. But 312 it is. Could just be new money that really doesn't know a whole heck of a lot. Doesn't even know how to use comps. I don't know. Red Velocity 2018 Optic Cristiano Ronaldo goes for $312 there. I'll admit I'm biased. I actually do own this card raw, and I do like this set in general. But you know, I think I own it because I like it, and I think it's a decent collectible for its price range. $312 on that though. I kind of like it. I mean, I know people don't like the Juve kit. Sort of the same thing with like Messi PSG. But to some extent, they were at those places for such a short stint in their career, and they're very notable teams. So like, I like it. I think the velocities look really good too. Like the red velocity is great in the hand. So $312 on that. I think that's a decent pickup. Personally, I'd take it over the Murata next to it. Now this is a PSA 10 Gold Prizm, of course, so a little different level in terms of card. Pop 1 of 1 goes for $312. And then finally, the top of page 2. I've got 48 per page now, so we only have 2 pages per week, but it's still 100 cards, or at least a near about. Start with an Aaron Moy for $312. Could be a set collector, could be the Australian collectors going hard at this one. That goes for a decent number, at least, compared to some of the other ones we've seen. And then here I was interested, I always sort of just roast the Lamine Yamal hype, and I get it, but like, he has a ton of cards, which is really my main concern, but just from a perspective of like, you could get an out of 99 rookie PSA 10, or you could get, a 16th year Messi PSA 10. I do see why people would be intrigued by this, because like personally, if I had to buy one or the other, and you really aren't collecting Sapphire, you really aren't collecting this year of Messi, you really aren't that big into Messi, I could see why people would be like, yeah, just give me the Lamine Yamal. It's a fun card. It has a lot more meaning, at least for the time being. And so I take it. I mean, I could see why people would. Definitely got more watchers. You know, if I'm playing the long game, I take the Messi every day. But at the same time, I could see why people want a Lamine Yamal, especially at these prices we're starting to see now. Even though there's tons of cards, at least they're more affordable than they were. I mean, when they first started coming out, you know, almost any number was hundreds upon hundreds of dollars just raw. And now you're getting a 10 for 300. That assumes a raw would probably be 100. Then we get to page 1 with another 48 cards here. We start with another gold Prizm, a Laurent Koscielny here in a PSA 10 for 336. Pop 1 of 1, none higher again. Of course, France World Cup winning year. This was, I mean, it's not like cool, I guess. It's not good to say like printing plates are cool, and it's not cool to say like Leafs cool, but $330 for a 1 of 1 with Ronaldo in a Madrid kit. Now, you could talk it down in a ton of ways, of course. Printing plate, sticker auto. He signed off the sticker. It's Leaf. It's all these bad things. But if you crack that out, you wouldn't know by looking at it it's Leaf. And you do have an auto for what is basically floor pricing for an auto. And he is in Real Madrid kit. I just, you know, I hate that type of stuff, generally speaking, but I could see it there. I mean, it doesn't seem terrible. Next to it, an Mbappe Laser PSA 10 for $370. Row above it, couple golds here, a Jordan Henderson or a Leroy Sané. Take your pick there. Me personally, I'd take the Sané probably every day of the week. Lamine Yamal out of 99 here for $372. Above it, a Zidane auto for $396, a Blue-Red Fusion Jude rookie out of 45 for $408, and a Florian Balogun here, a Florin Balogun, sorry, I always say his name wrong, goes for $408 in a PSA 7. As a USMNT guy, it seemed cheap. There's more than a few guys that really chase 1 of 1s for US players. It's obviously a very collected team, much more so than our talent would warrant, but we're just into it. We like it. We collect it, you know, that sort of stuff. I think 408 isn't crazy there. Now, granted, it's a PSA 7, but for our main striker, a 1 of 1 for $400, if you're a US guy and you got that, congrats to you. That seems like a fun one. Above it, an Allison PSA 10 Gold Prizm for $420. We have a Kaboom Vinny PSA 10 for $432 and a Stained Glass Kylian Mbappe for $444. In this row, it'd be interesting to see what people would want. I would probably go the Stained Glass Mbappe. I always say I love the Stained Glass, and I do. I think this might be first year Stained Glass too. I could be wrong on that. I looked up comps just because, you know, curious, and not many PSA 10s. Only 5 sales here. 2 sales this year, 1 last year, 1 in 2023, 1 in 2021. So really rare. Not really getting much of a bump for that, though. I mean, they are printing more of these types of cards every year, so even though it doesn't sell often and it is rare, there's many other options to choose from. This goes for $444, and it just sort of keeps going down, but I love the look, man. I really do, but nonetheless, it really hasn't gained a whole lot of steam as of late. But I guess an auction price going for the same price as a best offer is, you know, subtly gaining some steam, I guess. Above that, PSA 9. This has actually gone up a good bit. The low here recently was about $300 on a PSA 9. That goes nearly at $500, which I think is deserved, man. I mean, it's the one and only quote-unquote rookie Mbappe. If you want to go rookie card, of course you can say 2017 is, but it's the only 2016 card / sticker. Apologies, I didn't mean to say card, but you get the idea. I think $300 was really cheap. Sort of kicking myself for not getting one, but at the same time, yeah, you know, I can always get one later, I guess. That goes for $480. Cavani for $480 next to it, PSA 10 Gold Prizm. I thought this was a decent sale for a PSA 9 that also sort of runs off sticker. Dog scratching herself in the background if you heard that. PSA 9 Neymar 2014 World Cup Prizm goes for $480. I thought this was a good price. Just considering it's a 9 grade, it's also going off sticker, so I think it's probably a 9.9, maybe a 9.8. Then the next row, we have a Genesis Lionel Messi PSA 10 for $492. I looked this up, sort of in the same vein as the stained glass Kylian Mbappe that we talked about a second ago, and I closed it. Try again. I think this should be it. Yeah, so $599 on the last alt sale. This goes for $492, so a little bit of a dip, and that's the all-time low in terms of past sales. So again, like the stained glass, I mean, will they revert course? You would think at some point, but we're 4 or 5 years into it, and they haven't really seen much of an incline yet. Granted, we were on a pretty steep decline there for a bit, but even sort of during this comeback to life we're seeing generally in the market, some of this rare modern stuff really hasn't seen it yet. So I thought this was kind of a deal. PSA 9 Gold World Cup Prizm Ramos for $504. Compared to some of the stuff we saw a second ago, like a Cavani, I'd take a Ramos over a Cavani. Ramos versus Allison, I'd take a Ramos. Now, obviously, it just comes down to like team collectors and player collectors and who's out there and who wants it. But like, granted, it is Spain kit, so I get that, but I would assume there's enough Real Madrid collectors out there to really push this, and it didn't seem like it. A lot of watchers, though, 60 watchers there. Gold, I said gold, but it's orange. Refractor, Lionel Messi Topps Finest, 2018. PSA 10 goes for $540. I thought that seemed pretty cheap, just generally. First-year Finest doesn't have a lot of love, but yeah, I mean, a PSA 8 recently went for $200. You'd assume a 9 would be like $300, which would then mean a 10 would be like $900 or something, but it only goes for $5. Before this, I guess a 9 did go for $750, but this is a jersey number 9, so can't really count that. Some 8s before that for $250, $200. So if the 8s are going for $250 to $200 pretty consistently, I think a 10 for $540 was a really good deal, whoever got that. Pop 1 of 1, too. I mean, that is solid. I'd take that over the Ramos probably, but I think both of those were good deals in this. I take both of them surely over the Genesis, which I think is why the Genesis struggles a little bit. You know, because when the Genesis is dropping in price, but it's still in the same realm as these two cards, I would take these two every day of the week over the others. So above that, a Thierry Henry 2022 Eminence, where you can actually see the auto, goes for $552. A Rafael Varane goes for $564 in a PSA 10. Again, World Cup winning year, but again, I take the Ramos over him, even though it is a World Cup winning year. And then a Lamine Yamal future rookie here goes for a price of $564 out of 25. Above that, a couple more golds. We start with the Diego Maradona auto from 2020 Optic Contenders out of 199 for $576. We then have a Jamal Musiala out of 50 rookie PSA 10 for $576 as well. And then finally a Mats Hummels for $630. I'm not going to say it every time we look at one, but again, I would take the Ramos. So just throwing it out there. $630 on that one. Again, pretty good price. Row above that, and here I would also take the Conte over the Mats Hummels. So Conte goes for $690, PSA 9 out of 10, Gold World Cup Prizm. Really cool card. I mean, probably, I don't know the Conte catalog of cards that he has, but I would say that that is probably one of his best cards. Again, World Cup winning year. I think that's a good price. 74 watchers as well. You got a lot of people there. More watchers actually on this. Calciatore Maradona goes for $690. As much as this isn't his rookie, it's like a third year, I think a lot of people really look at it as like the rookie, since it is the first Panini sticker. It is sort of iconic in that way. It's pretty plentiful, at least relative to some of the earlier stuff. So I think a lot of people have really honed in on this. I looked it up, and I have it here. So yeah, in terms of pricing, the last 2 years, it's up 19%, but as you can see, it's sort of all over the place. I mean, really, it seems like it's about even over the last 2 years. And in terms of the Pop 59, just wanted to see what the graph's looking like here. You can sort of see it, 2023 here. 2023, at the start of 2023, there was 46 in this grade. Now there's 59. So, I mean, 2 years, you get 13, so that's like one every other month that gets graded at a 5. Now, granted, there's other grades, so I'm sure others are getting graded, but like, the Pop's not roaring. You can't see it here, but I mean, we're at 47 here. Halfway through 2021, we were at 20. So like, I mean, it really rose quick. And I would say now it's been pretty slow and steady. And if you didn't have this recent bump, you can't take that away, right? But if we're looking at this last year, there's 52. I mean, it took like almost a year for 2 of them to get graded. There's been a little more lately, but still, like, I think a lot of these cards that people thought were wildly plentiful, and they probably are compared to some things, right? But they're not as plentiful as we thought during the boom. I think the boom sort of created like a gold rush of people just submitting everything and hunting everything. And now that that's no longer there, a lot of these pops have really sort of settled. Now, of course, they're always going to go up, but they're not booming the way that they once were. Beyond that, we finish off this row with a Vinny PSA 10 Kaboom for $690 from 2021, Road to the World Cup, or Road to Qatar. We have a PSA 4 Heinerle that goes for $720. There will be a PSA 5 as well here in a bit. This row, just a few Pele's. Take your pick of the bunch. This one has the most watchers, the Heinerle PSA 4 from 61. This says 61. This is actually like 59.60. I don't know why they didn't change the title. I do know why. They never change the titles. They don't really care. They just follow what PSA says. And to be fair, can you blame them? PSA, in theory, should be getting this right, but at the same time, things change over time. So I personally would take the Imperio Calcio here, a really nice looking 60s issue in a PSA 5, Pop 1 of 5, 2 higher, super high grade for that release. And in terms of comps, last sales were $1,600, $1,200, and $1,600 over the last couple years, both in 2023 and 2024. So not like during the boom sales either. This one's down a decent bit. But could be a good entry point if you're into that. Next row, this is a really good price, $1,000 for a red Prizm. They were lingering around here for a bit, but then we saw some sales recently for like 500 to 600. So 1,020 is quite a bump up. And I did look at the Ballon d'Or odds, and now Kylian Mbappe is like plus 250, which equates to like a 30% chance, something like that. And the next highest is plus 500 for Salah. So he's pretty much the clear-cut favorite. Will it play out that way? It sort of depends on how Champions League and La Liga shakes out and whatnot. But looking pretty good for Mbappe, and so are his prices at the moment. Pele auto here from Donruss 2021 goes for 1,200. A booklet Cristiano Ronaldo goes for 1,200 as well from 2021 Immaculate. Then we have a select out of 46, which is, at least to me, somewhat random, but that Messi auto, a sticker auto, mind you, goes for 1,300 there with 93 watchers, quite a few there. 69 watchers on the tie-dye Lamine Yamal, nice card there, goes for a price of nearly 1,300 in a PSA 10 with the out of 30 Rarity. We also have the 1959 here, as it's labeled, high interlay PSA 5 that goes for 1,400, nearly double the price of a PSA 4 that's labeled as 2 years later. So I don't know if the year dates matter much. I did look this up. This is down from the last sales, but the only other sales of a 5 high interlay come from 2022 and 2021, so it's hard to really be up from those sales. But yeah, I mean, it sort of shocked me that you didn't see a PSA 5 sell for 2 to 3 years almost. That's quite a lot. So the grading rarity on this is pretty decent, I would say, for this grade in particular. Then we get a little higher. 2018 World Cup Prizm row here. Take your pick of the bunch. For me, I mean, I'm not a Salah guy, but I probably would take it. I could also be convinced on the Molar, to be honest. Salah obviously has the Liverpool love. Really good season as well right now. Me personally, I sort of have a soft spot for the Germans, so I'd probably take Muller. But if I wanted to be sort of, a correct hobbyist and go with the crowd, I'd go with the Salah. But 1,600 on this PSA 9, actually a decent price considering Toll Card World relisted a gold Prizm PSA 10 like 5 times, and eventually it sold for 1,900. So if a 10 sold for 1,900 and a 9 went for 1,600, I'd say the 9 was a pretty good price, at least relative. Don't really have any pre-boom pricing to speak of. We do have a 2021 sale here of a 9.5 that actually went for $2,000. So, one of the few cards that's holding very strong from 2021 pricing in March 2021. That was around the peak. Kylian Mbappe blue color match goes for 1,600. I actually, man, that doesn't strike me as crazy. I mean, if a red's going for 1,000, I know that this is more common, but I mean, man, the color match is so good. 1,600 on that. Actually, I didn't look it up because I just sort of glossed by it in this row. I saw 2 gold Prizms and my mind just went elsewhere, but that's pretty cool. Granted, again, would you rather have the Mbappe or some gold Prizms? Take your pick. I'd still probably take the Thomas Muller, but just thinking about it now, like, man, a blue Kylian Mbappe is pretty sick. Really cool row, though, in totality. 1,800 there on the Muller to finish us off. That takes us to the row above it, which, surprisingly, Tony Cruz is above these 3 in the row beneath him. 2,300 here on a PSA pop, 105, so must be some pretty high grades, generally speaking, for this card. 2,300 there sounds like a pretty decent price. I looked up the Cristiano Ronaldo Gold Laser out of 15. This one went for 3,700, as you can see in a PSA 10. Last Raw did 2,200, so, I mean, a 10 doing, nearly double seems to make sense, I would say, generally speaking. Pre-boom, actually, there was a sale here for PSA 10 for $525 back in 2018. So from 2018 to now, up like 7x, which is a pretty decent number. I would say generally on these gold Prizms, I thought in totality that they sold for good prices, but like if you're collecting it or if you're looking for them, I don't think they sold that high. Like I think they're attainable and somewhat justifiable, in the sense that, like, pre-boom, a Sergio Ramos back in 2018 was probably like a $100 card, maybe 200, like 100 to 200, I would think, based off the comps I've seen. So it being a $500 card now certainly is a jump, but like a 3x isn't that big of a jump compared to all the other things in soccer. I mean, you've seen tons of things in soccer sometimes go 5, 10, 20, 100x. Meanwhile, a gold World Cup Prizm is up like 3x. I don't think that's bad. I think it's very healthy, and I think if you're trying to get in on these, I think it was a good time. Granted, you didn't see me buy any, but I actually didn't go through the weekly until, like, they were all about to end. So I was just, it was mayhem for me. I picked up a high-grade Platini that didn't even make this since we had a pretty high threshold this week, but I am jealous of some of these gold Prizms, I'll say that much. We sort of skimmed past this Spectra Global Icons, but this is, I guess, a hard grade. Maybe that's why it gets 3K. It is a sticker auto, but the Spectras in general are thick cards, so they're going to be hard to grade. 3,000 there seems like a good number, I would say. You know, me personally, I'd probably take the gold laser, but you do have to pay a little bit of a premium on that for sure. 120 watchers though, I mean, my word. Well above it here, you got a 28 watcher Rivellino that gets on in here. 1965 PSA 1 for nearly 4K. I actually do have the vintage Discord here to go ahead and walk us through some of this. So as always, if you enjoy vintage, if you enjoy pre-modern, basically anything that isn't like ultra-modern shiny stuff, the vintage Discord is a pretty good place to be. And I looked up just Rivellino in general because I remembered seeing something about it. Back in August, or actually July of 2024, Defbotech posted here that there are at least 2 1966 issues plus a sort of 1965 issue. Here are the 1966, as you can see here on the left, sort of a red television set almost, and then this yellow one beneath it, and then this 1965, which is a little cardboard pog that was inside a plastic game piece for a table soccer game. Pics of it removed and encased in plastic. So basically, what I was able to gather from that is that this isn't really sort of your natural release, and generally would be seen as sort of like an oddball, because it really isn't like a typical card. It's something that was, I guess, meant to be in a game and sort of got taken out of it and put in here. So is it a true rookie? I don't know. They don't even have rookie in the title, to be fair, so they didn't try to push that. But the pricing would indicate people think it is, and, you know, depending on where you stand, I could see it. Generally, I like to err towards more sort of typical releases, but I could understand, you know, if you really like the player or whatnot, going after basically anything you can find. Seems like a good price there, I would say, though. That is his all-time high sale of any card or sticker for Rivellino. 2016 field level gold Cristiano Ronaldo goes for $3,900. PSA 8, to be fair, so there is a little bit of a downer there. Would you take the PSA 8 of the field level gold or the World Cup Prizm Gold Laser? PSA 10. I think that's an interesting question. A lot more watchers on the gold laser, but this does get a higher price. Me personally, I'm a little bit of a simp for the field levels, and I think the gold just looks so good on that, man. Also, Madrid kit, just so much going for it. Now, it is an 8, though. I think it was one of 1.5 higher. When we look at comps, there was a 10 that sold for 13.2K. So, I mean, if you do the grading math, I think that the 8 sold for a very fair price. But if you needed sort of a lower cost entry point, still a high price, but a lower cost, that is a way to get into it. And then a Messi Colossal 2018 NT, you know the deal. I mean, coat hanger auto, these autos have been gathering a lot of skepticism lately because they look nothing like Messi's typical autos. I'm not going to explain it anymore because I've explained it basically every week. But a lot of them have been selling, probably a lot of people, I would assume, sort of trying to get ahead of the news spreading even more than it already has. It is sort of a questionable auto with a player-worn patch, so not, even then, I think $4,000 for that is a good price. $4,500, not bad. And then finally, top row for this week, we have a Pele, a Holland, and a Messi. The Pele record PSA 9 goes for $4,600. A magazine cutout that was supposed to be cut out, but that's why you can generally get them in high grade. That's why it's also hand cut. I always like them with a little bit of the border. This one has some border. I generally also like it with Garincha on the other side of it, which Garincha would be here, but he's cut off down the middle. PSA 9 high grade, as you can tell, pop 1 of 12, none higher. In terms of comps, they've been anywhere from like 3,500 to, sometimes 8,000, but for the most part, 3,500 to, I guess 8,000. It just seems weird that like there's barely any 6,000 or 7,000s. They're just 35 or 8. Some 4.5s. I would say that this is probably about where they're at, if you take out some of the anomalies. This Orange Sapphire Holland, a great example of hype dying down. Granted, this was sort of a different era of hype because not only did you have hype on rookies, but you had hype in the market in general. There's a lot less hype nowadays, but this could be a cautionary tale to Lamine Yamal collectors, investors, and any other, speculators that come along for the newer players. As we go and look at comps, this one 4,800, last one 6,800, 11,000, 18,000, 23,000, 25,000, 50,000, and that's how you lose 90+% on a card over the last 4 years. So While some cards have stayed the course, others have gone down 30, 40, 50%. This one has absolutely gotten rinsed. And, you know, you might say, well, it's an out of 50 card, you know, it's not that rare. To be fair, I guess, Holland rookie stuff is really hard to come by compared to the modern guys. I did a video about it. I think he had like 2,000 numbered cards for his rookies in general. Lamine Yamal has something like 20 to 50,000, probably somewhere in there, like tens of thousands compared to the 2,000 that Erling Haaland had. So back then, an out of 50 was actually kind of impressive to some degree, because you could barely even get the base cards. I mean, everyone's just going after everything. But they keep on coming down, and 4,800 there. We'll see where the bleeding stops. Obviously, no Ballon d'Or yet for him, but other than the Ballon d'Or, he's had a pretty successful career. I know Man City's not having their best year by any means, but generally speaking, he's done pretty well for himself, and still down 90%. Then finally, 2022, this is a good-looking auto. If you want an example of what a Messi auto should look like, there you go. The L is sort of the easy thing to read into. The other L on the Eminence was nothing like this. This one actually looks somewhat decent. The auto itself looks pretty good. I mean, there's some stuff going on where it's missing a little bit here and there, but this is actually a jersey number, which surprisingly wasn't in the title. There's also been talk about this like scuffing. A lot of people think it's on the case, and some people say it's on the case, but I've also seen other people say that this might actually be on the card. And if that's the case, that is something of note. I do not have any of these in hand, so I cannot speak to it. But in terms of pricing, this actually didn't seem to get much of a premium for the jersey number nature. When we look back, the last out of 5 went for $7,800. This one has a lot of that sort of scuffing. I mean, even if it's on the case, that is pretty hard to look at. But if that's on the card, that's even worse. The 1 of 1 did go for $23,000, so, you know, an impressive number there. And other out of 10s, I guess, okay, this actually had sold before. The same exact one sold for $9,100, so we are down a little bit from there. And does the scuffing? Yeah, the scuffing looks basically the same. So I don't know. I guess this gives some credence to me. It looks like there's extra scuffing on it since then, like this top left. So maybe that is on the case, at least some of it. Golden also makes it look a lot better in this picture, I will say. Looks a lot shinier than something like this. But yeah, it seemed like a pretty good sale. I mean, generally these have been going from, you know, like 6 to 8 or 9,000. And so to get a jersey number copy for $7,500 doesn't seem bad at all. And that brings us home for this weekly, a really fun weekly. I mean, tons of high-end stuff. The gold prisms were a really fun read in this auction in particular. And glad I was able to talk about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, we'll look at next week and just give a small peek into what's going on. I'm only going to look at the top 24 since we just want a nice little overview. As I said, people are selling off the NT Messis. Here's another one. We got a black 1 of 1 World Cup Prizm insert here of Ronaldo, an Inception Ronaldo. An out of 20 Kylian Mbappe Prizm, pretty crazy there. 1 of 1 Ronaldinho jersey number, Messi from Optic 2018. Some more golds. You got a Neymar, you got a Messi. 1 of 1 Arda Güler. You got a ton of autos there on a Leaf booklet. It's probably some fun stuff sprinkled in between. Looks like we're gonna have another week of gold World Cup Prizm. So again, if you're into that sort of stuff, there you go. There's even more coming next week. Looks like someone's probably letting go of their set chase that they were after. This, I was going to curse and curse a lot. This frickin' Rafa Leao is back again, dude. This is the bane of my existence. I don't know how many times a card has to run for Fanatics to just boot whoever owns this off the platform. I've seen this run like 10 times since we've started doing these weeklies a couple years ago. Will someone, for the love of God, just buy this card? Or will someone at Fanatics get rid of whoever is doing this? I mean, at some point I was like, okay, maybe they're selling it. You know, one person might pick it up. They might want to resell it. Who is doing this? Like, my Lord, man. All right. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to end this video, and we're going to call it a day. So that's going to be it for me. As always, if you enjoyed this video, do make sure to leave a like. Would love to see your thoughts down below. Anything you thought sold high, low, maybe something you snagged as well. Would love to see it. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and